So this finally arrived. I've been waiting, 2 weeks, 3 weeks for this. It actually made it up here faster than I thought. And it's a little heavier than I thought. I think it's supposed to weigh around 265 pounds. But it came on this pallet. And as you can see, it's a snow plow. And I gotta get it off that hand truck, which is how I got it up here and into the garage and onto the ground, and start getting it open to put together. Okay, let me see what we got here. Just a piece of packing. Whew. An accessory box. Winch, instructions, what's this? Mystery box. Parts box, or not a box, but a package of parts. Let me that's a foot. Package of parts. Package of parts. Cut some of these straps off. Do that. Pretty good. It's heavier duty than I thought it was going to be. Triangle frame, a swivel frame. Those two have to be put together somehow. More packing. Wire loom. You know what? I'm not sure they sent me the right snow plow. This plow is supposed to go on the hitch on the truck. And I'm not seeing a 2-inch hitch part here. So that's part of the frame. And the pin just dropped out. Snow deflector. More parts. I do not think this is the right plow. Where's the cutting edge? Okay. Half of it has two halves that have to be put together. Okay, it is right. That was wrong. Whew. It's cold out here, but I'm warming up quickly. Moving these parts around. Okay, it is the right one. Here is the 2-inch receiver hitch part that goes on the front of the truck. That's the cutting blade. The A-frame, the bow frame, the winch frame, the two blades that become one, and all these mystery parts, which I think those two are the struts that go back to the truck, along with the receiver hitch to make a sturdy fit. A couple of those are the feet and something else. I'll get all those things unboxed. We'll get this organized a little better, and I'll be right back. Okay, everything's unwrapped. Got it all laid out. Now it's time to put it together. I'm going to start by putting the two big plow halves together. Then I'm going to put those cutting edges on. The middle one overlaps between the two, and the shorter ones go on the outside. Put them on next, and then I'll come back to you as soon as I get that done. Okay, I got the two halves together, and the scraper edge, which is the bottom of the plow, which was the 3 pieces, are put on there. The larger piece here overlaps in the center. That's all just held together by those 3 bolts. And the important thing, according to the instructions, was to make sure that the round head of the bolts, I'm talking about these bolts down here that go from the other side, and the nuts be on the back. This is the back side here with those nuts on it. And that means that that rounded head is on the cutting face. It's pretty heavy. I can't pick it up with one hand to show you the other side, so I'll be right back. So I've got it upside down so that this is the cutting face here. And as you can see, these bolts here, the round head is on the cutting surface side. And then on around here in the back, that's where those nuts are. Just wanted to show you that for now. All of the bolts were already in the 3 pieces of the cutting face. And I just had to take the nuts off, slap them on there, and tighten them down. All right, next is to put these feet right here. These are your skid plates, and one goes on this side and over on that side over there. So I got to put these on next, and they go into those holes right there. These with those bolts right here. So I'll get those on next. Next, I'm going to install the caster wheels. They're held on each corner down here. It'll go right there. There's one on each bolt, and it has this pin so that you can flip it up and down and lock it in. All right, the plow is done for now, the blade. I'm going to move on to assembling the push structure. All right, so I have never owned a snow plow. I've never been close up to examine a snow plow. And this is where I'm going to be a little critical of DK. There are ears and flanges on what they call the D piece, and the A pillar and the D pillar, and they don't tell you whether that flange is up or down when you attach the D pillar to the A pillar. All they say is put the D pillar on top of the A pillar. So I have to make some assumptions here. This looks like it's that is the part. There's a pin there. I don't know if you can see that pin. Yeah, there's a pin there you can see that stops you can select the angle for the blade. And that's what the round part on the D frame is for, is so that you can pivot on that point. So I got to make some assumptions here because they don't tell you in the instructions. And like I said, this is my first time. So I think this one's oriented right with that L bracket to capture the D bracket, the bow in the D bracket. So in the D frame there. And that's definitely the center pin. So I'm going to flip this piece up on top of here. I think that I'll have it right, and I'll continue. Another complaint I have is all these bolts were supplied and in the pieces that they go to. That was great. But one of the problems that I had is all my tools are out at the property where I'm building the house. And so I'm having to put this together in the garage of our rental place. And because it's a rental, I don't have everything here that I need. Everything's snowed in out at the property, and I need this plow to get out there and get to everything where my equipment is as well. So anyway, I'm going to continue. I'll be back when I get that D frame on top of the A frame. Okay, so I was right. That flange goes on top, and as you can see, the bow on the D frame is travels under that and on top of the rest of the A frame. The bolt comes up through the bottom of the A frame and then through the D frame, and it's got a sleeve on it for a pivot point. What they don't tell you is that you can't get that up against there because you can't just pull this out with your fingers from the frame until you get this lever on here. That's not going to be easy to do. But so a trick is there are holes on this D frame. See if you can see them. Where's the holes? There's one over here that I think, nope. Can't, let me, there are holes on the D frame. You see that one right there? And there's another one over there. Hold on. Okay, so one trick I learned is the D frame bow has holes in it. I put these white tabs of the packing foam that the whole thing came in there so you can see the location. Well, there's one I also lined up with this pin. So I lined it up with the pin and then slid it onto the pin and then pushed the pivot pin up through. So they don't mention anything about that. If you try to just line that up, you'll find you're hitting this pin and it doesn't, you can't get that center pin in with this pin hitting it. So you have to line up one of these holes, and there's one right under there, with that, and it slips right in. And then you can put your pivot pin in. Next step. All right, this next step is just like the last step. They give you a general idea of what you're doing, but they say connect the main frame to the A frame using those pins and those bolts. They don't tell you that you got to line those pins and those bolts up with that little hole there and the hole over there that's in the main frame. So we're going to do that. We're going to try it that way. Hang on, I'll be back. All right, here's what's going on. This is that pin that went into the main frame. I've got it all tipped up here on that bucket, resting on that bucket, because as you can see, these bolts, when they go through, there's not a whole lot of room there to just have this much room to put a wrench on. And like I said, all my tools are over at my property, so all I have is a set of end wrenches here, and I found these were 13s, 13 metric 13s. What I do like about this whole setup is all those bolts have been all nylock bolts, so there's no additional fastening required other than the nylock bolts. So I'm going to set this back down. I just wanted you to see what I found to make it easier was to prop it up on there to get those bolts tightened up once I got them through. I'm going to set it back down and move on to the next step. Hold on. Yeah, I can't get, so I just opened the winch box, Has instructions here. Looks like the winch is packaged in here. Yeah, it's definitely the winch. So let me pull that out, and I hope if the bolts that hold it on, that mount it to that, aren't in there, I still have a box called accessories and a mystery box to open. I think I'll open those now. All right, mystery box has the remote control for the winch. Accessory box has a bunch of wiring for the winch and winch mounting hardware. Bolts included and another package of bolts. All right, time to get the winch mounted on there using that. So to install the winch, as you can see, as you face the front of the plow, the winch motor goes on the right hand side. One thing you have to be careful, these four were in the box of accessories, these 4 bolts and nuts and washers. The only thing that it mentioned was to make sure that the strap went under here. So there's those 4 bolts you can see right there that hold the winch on. And then there's a U-bolt that goes through the A-frame that holds the winch to the A-frame. I set it up on this bucket in order to make it easier to get at everything on both sides, and that helped a little. Those bolts right there would have been on the floor, and I didn't want to stick my toe under it. So right now it's ready. These pins that are on the top hook into each of those ribs, those 3 ribs there on the plow. So it's ready to connect the plow. I think before I connect it to the plow, I have to put that foot on, and then I can go connect it to the plow. And these are just pins with cotter keys, so they'll be easy to put on over there at the plow. That's what I'm going to do next. So I'll do that. All right, it's pretty much all together except for the springs, which go right here. They attach to there and up to the plow so it can trip. So I've got that, and the rubber that goes across the top of the plow, it's got to be put on there. And then with the markers, and then what I've got left is that piece goes into the receiver hitch. Those are the springs, the markers. Right there's the rubber. These parts are the electrical for the winch. Those bars clamp the rubber to the top, and that's just the loom for the winch wires. And those are part of the hitch. So those things I'm going to get on in the morning, and I'll take a few shots when I get it all set up. And this is pretty much, oh, one other thing. This one here goes in that spot right there to hold the main frame up in the air when it's in storage. Anyway, I'm gonna put the rubber on and call it a night. Okay, I'm gonna put these springs over here on the snow plow, and they mount down to here. From here up to this hole here on the snow plow, which is right there. That hole down to that hole. There's one on each side. And those springs are your safety springs that keep it from tipping over, or allow it to tip over. They allow the plow to tip forward when you hit something. So let's get those put on, and I'll be back when they're done, and we'll start with the rubber gas or snow deflector that goes all the way along the top of the plow there. Okay, I got both springs installed. Like I said, they hook into the main frame up here, travel down to a turnbuckle here to an eye bolt that you can tighten. I don't know how tight they're supposed to be. The book doesn't tell you, but we'll find out if they're tight enough, and if not, I'll just tighten them up some more. So the next thing is to get this band across there. Get that band all the way across here next. The deflex, it's at 4 inches of rubber that comes in all rolled up. Yeah. Get it laid out and on the top of the blade there. That'll be our next piece that we're going to install. So that gets installed using these bars right here, and as you can see, there's a bolt missing from this end on them. They have the bolts in the rest, but that's because the bolts are those two rods there, which have a bolt on the end. That one goes in these holes down here on the top, on each end. One on that end and one on that end. All right, let's get that on. I'll get that done. All right, the snow deflector, the rubber on top is all installed, as well as the markers. It was harder than I thought it was going to be, just because you're putting the bolt down through the top. It has a slot, so it's a carriage bolt and it stays, but there's not a whole lot of room underneath to manipulate your fingers to attach the nut to. So got it all done. It's all together. I'm down to the hitch that goes onto the truck and the winch controls. And that's all that's left to make this into a completed snowplow. It's a little big for the space I've got here to film this in the garage, but it's 16 degrees outside. Maybe a couple more, maybe around 20 degrees in here, but it's plenty cold. So my fingers weren't operating the best for putting those bolts in the top and getting the nut on the bottom, but that's done. So I'll attach the hitch part to this, and the snow is piling up outside, so except for my truck is not running great. but I might have to go use it actually today. We'll see. All right, the plow is all completed. The very last piece I put on was the adjustment handle here that lets you rotate it on the bow. So it's just 2 bolts here and nuts and washers. You got to come up through the bottom side on these. This one's longer because it's got to go through that pin, and this one's just going through 2 pieces of flat. But anyway, you just want those snug down to the washer, because they got to be able to move freely when you move the lever. So everything's all together except for everything's done except for the winch controls, which looks to be pretty simple. 2 wires here, 2 wires on the truck and the battery, and this whole piece down here, all of this back T from there, these 2 brackets, you just pull these 2 pins, pull this pin and one over on the other side there, and then this slides up and off, and that detaches it from the truck. This whole back part attaches to the truck. Haven't tried that yet. That'll be the next thing I got to do, is attach that to the truck and then wire the winch up to the winch here and to the batteries in the truck. All in all, it wasn't a difficult build, but it was actually, I have to say, DK did a real good job of, nothing was missing. Everything was included that needed to be there. Every bolt, every washer, all of the nylocks, everything was there. Like I said, there were a few things that seemed like they should have been easier. This was the most difficulty because you're putting it on upside down and there's not a whole lot of finger space in there. But overall, I think this is going to be a great little homeowner plow. We'll find out. It's definitely not commercial built.